Marcus Chen stood at his workstation on the research vessel Concordia, pretending to analyze data on his screen, but his eyes kept drifting to the tall figure working across the laboratory. Jathira moved with careful grace between the equipment, her silver skin catching the light. Patterns of soft blue and purple rippled across her arms as she worked. He had been assigned to the Concordia 6 months ago as a xenobiologist. His job was to study alien life forms and help humans understand other species. But nothing in his training had prepared him for Jathira. She was Velkorian, a species known throughout the galaxy for their brilliant minds and logical thinking. The Velkorians had smooth, silver skin that glowed with different colors, depending on their emotions. They were taller than humans, with large, dark eyes that seemed to see everything. Jathira was one of the best astrophysicists in known space, and she had been studying stars and planets longer than Marcus had been alive. Marcus tried to focus on his work, but his gaze wandered back to her. The way she tilted her head when examining a sample. The soft hum she made when she was thinking deeply. The way her skin patterns shifted from blue to green when she made a discovery. "Why do you keep staring at me, human?" Marcus jumped, nearly knocking over his coffee. Jathira stood right beside his desk, her dark eyes fixed on him. Her skin patterns had turned sharp red and orange, colors he had learned meant suspicion or annoyance. Marcus felt his face grow hot. "I was just observing." "Observing what exactly?" Jathira crossed her arms. "You watch me constantly during our shifts. In Velkorian culture, such staring is either a challenge to fight or an interrogation technique. Which is it?" "Neither," Marcus said quickly. "I'm sorry, I'm a xenobiologist. I study alien species. Your bioluminescent patterns are fascinating for research purposes. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." Jathira's patterns shifted to a cooler yellow, which meant she was thinking. "Research," she repeated slowly. "You are studying me as a specimen?" "Not a specimen," Marcus said, wishing he could disappear. "Just trying to understand your people better. The color changes what they mean. It's part of building better human-Velkorian relations." This was partly true. Marcus did find her bioluminescence fascinating, but that wasn't why he stared. He stared because she was brilliant and dedicated. He stared because she had a dry sense of humor that caught him off guard. He stared because when she discovered something new, her whole being seemed to light up with joy. He stared because somewhere between the mission briefings and late-night lab work, he had started to care about her in a way that terrified him. "I see," Jathira said. Her patterns settled into a neutral silver blue. "Then perhaps you should know that your constant observation is distracting me from my work." "I'll stop," Marcus promised. "I really am sorry." She nodded and returned to her station. Marcus buried his face in his hands. "Smooth, Chen. Very smooth." The next morning, Captain Rodriguez called them both to her office. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "We've detected something unusual on planet AR-7743, the captain said, pulling up a holographic display. The planet rotated slowly in the air between them, showing green continents and blue oceans. Long-range scans picked up artificial structures. They appear to be ancient ruins, possibly from a civilization that died out thousands of years ago. Marcus leaned forward with interest. Discovering lost civilizations was rare and valuable. "I'm sending you two down to investigate," Captain Rodriguez continued. "Chen, your xenobiology expertise will help analyze any biological remains. Jathira, your archaeological training makes you perfect for studying the structures. The mission will take approximately 2 weeks. Marcus glanced at Jathira. Her patterns showed no emotion, staying neutral silver. 2 weeks, Marcus said. In close quarters. The survey ship is small but comfortable, the captain said. You're both professionals. I trust you'll work well together. Jathira stood. When do we depart? Tomorrow morning, 0800 hours. Pack for 2 weeks. Dismissed. As they left the office, Jathira turned to Marcus. I expect you to maintain professional distance during this mission, human. No staring. Marcus, he said. My name is Marcus, and I promise I'll be completely professional. Her patterns flickered with what might have been amusement, but Marcus couldn't be sure. The next day, they boarded the small survey ship and departed from the Concordia. The journey to AR 7743 took 6 hours. Marcus tried to focus on reviewing data about the planet, but he was very aware of Jathira sitting at the navigation console. She worked in silence, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. Have you worked with many humans before? Marcus asked, trying to break the uncomfortable quiet. A few, Jathira replied without looking up. I find your species unpredictable. Unpredictable how? She paused, her patterns shifting to thoughtful purple. Humans laugh for no apparent reason. You touch each other frequently without purpose. You become emotional over small things. It is illogical. Not everything needs logic, Marcus said. Sometimes people just feel things. Feelings cloud judgment, Jathira said. They lead to poor decisions. Marcus smiled. Feelings also inspire art, music, poetry. They push us to achieve impossible things. We flew to the stars because we felt wonder. Jathira looked at him directly for the first time that day. You humans and your emotions. So inefficient. Yet somehow you accomplish remarkable things. Her patterns shifted to a color Marcus had never seen before, a soft amber gold. Before he could ask what it meant, alarms blared through the ship. Jathira's hands flew across the console. Entering atmosphere, she announced. Turbulence ahead. Secure yourself. Marcus strapped into his seat as the ship began to shake. Through the view screen, he saw the planet growing larger, its surface covered in thick forests and wide rivers. And there, in a clearing, stood massive stone structures reaching toward the sky. The ruins awaited them, holding secrets that would change everything Marcus thought he knew about love, species, and the bridges that could be built between two very different hearts. The ruins were even more magnificent up close. Marcus and Jathira stood at the entrance of a massive stone temple, their equipment scanning the ancient walls. Strange symbols covered every surface, telling stories in a language neither of them recognized. These structures are at least 5,000 years old, Jathira said, running her hand along the carved stone. Her patterns glowed soft green with excitement. But the architecture is unlike anything in our databases. This civilization is completely unknown. Marcus aimed his scanner at a wall covered in murals. The images showed two different species living together, building cities, raising families. One species was tall and slender with patterns on their skin. The other was shorter, with features that looked almost human. Look at this, Marcus called out. These two species lived together. They weren't just neighbors. They were partners. Jathira came to stand beside him, studying the murals carefully. Interesting. Cross-species cooperation at this level is extremely rare. Most civilizations keep their species separate. Maybe they knew something we don't, Marcus said quietly. They set up their research camp inside the temple's main hall. The ceiling stretched high above them, and evening light poured through carved windows. Marcus assembled their sleeping pods while Jathira organized their scientific equipment. I will prepare our evening meal, Jathira announced, pulling out nutrition packs from their supplies. Let me help, Marcus offered. That is unnecessary. I am perfectly capable. I know you are, Marcus interrupted gently. But humans like to share tasks. It's how we bond with others. Jathira's patterns flickered with confusion. Bond? We are colleagues, not family units. Bonding doesn't have to be formal, Marcus explained. It's just about spending time together, getting to know each other, being friends. Friends? Jathira repeated the word like she was tasting something new. Velcorians do not have this concept. We have family. We have work partners. Nothing between. Marcus felt a pang of sadness for her. That sounds lonely. Lonely is an emotion. Emotions are inefficient, Jathira said, but her patterns had turned a dull gray that Marcus was learning meant uncertainty. They ate in silence, sitting on portable chairs as darkness fell outside. Marcus pulled out his datapad and began playing music, something soft with piano and strings. He saw Jathira's head turn toward the sound. "What is that?" she asked. "Music. A song from Earth called Clair de Lune. It means moonlight." "Why do humans create such sounds?" Marcus thought about how to explain. "Music is how we express feelings that words can't capture. Joy, sadness, love, hope. It's all there in the notes." Jathira stood and walked closer, her patterns beginning to pulse in rhythm with the music. Blue waves rippled across her skin in time with the piano notes. "This is strange. My bioluminescence is responding to the sound vibrations." "You're feeling the music," Marcus said with a smile. "Feeling," she whispered. For the first time, her voice held wonder instead of pure logic. "Is this what humans experience?" "Sometimes. When something is really beautiful." Jathira sat down again, closer to Marcus this time. They listened to 3 more songs together. With each one, her patterns danced with different colors. Fast songs made her glow bright yellow. Sad songs turned her deep blue. She didn't speak, just experienced. When the last song ended, Jathira looked at Marcus with those large, dark eyes. "I wish to understand more about humans, about your emotions and your culture. Will you teach me?" "I'd be happy to," Marcus said, his heart beating faster. Over the next few days, they explored the ruins together. But during their rest periods, Marcus taught Jathira about Earth. He showed her pictures of oceans and mountains. He told her stories about his childhood, about his family, about falling in love with science. He explained human holidays, human art, human dreams. Jathira absorbed everything with intense focus. She asked hundreds of questions. Why do humans cry when happy? What is the purpose of kissing? Why do humans form romantic pairs instead of logical breeding arrangements? That last question made Marcus pause. They were sitting inside the temple, examining a mural that showed 2 different species holding hands. "We call it love," Marcus said carefully. "It's when you care about someone so much that their happiness becomes as important as your own. When you want to spend time with them, protect them, support them, not because logic says you should, but because your heart tells you to." "Heart is just an organ that pumps blood," Jathira said, but her patterns showed confused purple and pink swirls. "The emotional heart," Marcus clarified. "The part of you that feels instead of thinks." "And humans choose their mates based on these feelings? Not genetic compatibility or social status?" "Sometimes we choose badly," Marcus admitted. "Love can be messy and complicated, but when it's right, it's the best thing in the universe." Jathira was quiet for a long moment, her patterns shifting through colors Marcus was starting to recognize. Uncertainty, curiosity, something else he couldn't name. "Why do you keep staring at me, human?" she asked suddenly. It was the same question from days ago, but her tone was different now, softer, almost vulnerable. Marcus took a deep breath. This was the moment. He could lie again, or he could tell the truth. "Because you're brilliant," he said honestly. "Because when you discover something new, you light up in ways that take my breath away. Because you're starting to understand beauty and wonder, and watching that happen is incredible. Because somewhere in the last few weeks, I stopped seeing you as just a colleague and started seeing you as someone I care about." Jathira's patterns exploded into colors Marcus had never seen. Bright gold mixed with pink and white, swirling across her skin like northern lights. "I do not understand what I am feeling," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "When you speak, my bioluminescence responds before my mind can control it. When you smile, I experience what might be called pleasure. This is not logical. This is not how Velcorians should function." "Maybe it's okay to not be logical sometimes," Marcus suggested gently. Thunder suddenly crashed outside. Within seconds, rain poured down in thick sheets. Wind howled through the temple windows. "Electrical storm," Jathira said, checking her scanner. "Dangerous levels. We must take shelter in the lower chambers." They grabbed emergency supplies and hurried deeper into the temple. The storm grew worse, lightning flashing so brightly it lit up the ancient halls. They found a small chamber with thick walls and huddled inside. Jathira's patterns flickered erratically, red and orange streaking across her skin. Marcus recognized fear. "Hey," he said softly. "We're safe here. The walls are solid." "I do not like storms," Jathira admitted. "They are unpredictable, chaotic." "Then let me distract you." Marcus pulled out his datapad. "Let me tell you about Earth's greatest love stories. Romeo and Juliet, Pride and Prejudice. Stories about people who loved each other despite impossible odds." As the storm raged outside, Marcus talked. He told her tales of love that crossed social classes, cultures, even time itself. He spoke of sacrifice and devotion, of hearts that refused to give up. Jathira listened, her patterns gradually calming to steady blue and purple. At some point, she moved closer to Marcus until they sat side by side, shoulders almost touching. "These stories," she said when he finished, "they all involve pain. Love seems to hurt humans." "Sometimes," Marcus agreed. "But humans think it's worth it. We'd rather feel everything, joy and pain, than feel nothing at all." Jathira looked at him, and in the dim light her patterns glowed with that mysterious amber gold again. "I think," she said slowly, "I am beginning to understand why." The storm continued outside, but inside the chamber, something had shifted between them. Something neither could name yet, but both could feel. On the planet's surface, Marcus and Jathira establish a research camp. The ruins they're investigating contain beautiful murals depicting what appears to be a romance between two different species who built a civilization together. Jathira becomes fascinated by human culture and begins asking Marcus questions. Why do humans sing? What purpose does poetry serve? Why do they form pair bonds with such intensity? Marcus tries to explain human concepts of love, but the translator struggles. Velcorians have bonding rituals, but they're arranged for genetic compatibility, not emotion. During a dangerous electrical storm, they're forced to shelter together in a small cave. Marcus watches Jathira's bioluminescence flicker with what he doesn't know is anxiety. To calm her, he tells her stories of Earth, about art, music, and how humans believe love can transcend any barrier. Jathira's patterns shift to colors Marcus has never seen before. She asks again, "Why do you stare at me?" This time, Marcus admits, "Because you're fascinating. Because when you discover something new, your whole being lights up. Literally. Because I've never met anyone like you." Jathira processes this with scientific curiosity. "You experience attraction to me? We are incompatible species." Marcus smiles sadly. "Yeah, the heart doesn't always check the species compatibility chart first." Key moments. Jathira attempting to understand human emotions through scientific analysis. Marcus teaching her about human music, playing recordings from his datapad. A moment where Jathira's patterns synchronize with the rhythm of a song, and she experiences beauty for the first time as an emotion rather than a mathematical concept. Their discovery of a hybrid skeleton in the ruins, proof the ancient civilization succeeded in cross-species bonding. The storm had passed by morning, leaving the air fresh and clean. Marcus and Jathira spent the next week documenting the ruins, taking thousands of scans and photographs. But something had changed between them. Jathira asked more personal questions. She stood closer when they worked. Her patterns glowed warm colors whenever Marcus entered a room. On their last day at the ruins, they made a discovery that would change everything. Deep in the temple's lowest level, they found a burial chamber. 2 skeletons lay side by side, hands intertwined. One skeleton was tall and slender. The other was smaller, with bone structure similar to humans. Between them lay a carved stone tablet. "Marcus!" Jathira called, her patterns blazing bright white with excitement. "These are the 2 species from the murals. They were buried together with honors. This suggests a bond deeper than simple cooperation." Marcus carefully scanned the tablet. His translation software worked slowly, piecing together the ancient language. Finally, words appeared on his screen. "Here lie Sarah and Thane, who proved that love knows no boundaries between stars or species. They built our world together. They loved beyond reason. They showed us that 2 hearts can become one, no matter how different the bodies that hold them." Jathira read the translation, her patterns cycling through a dozen colors. "Love between species. They are saying it is possible." "More than possible," Marcus said softly. "They're saying it's beautiful." They stared at the ancient couple in silence. Marcus wanted to say so much, but the words stuck in his throat. Before he could speak, Jathira's communicator beeped urgently. "This is Captain Rodriguez. Jathira, respond immediately." Jathira activated the channel. "I am here, Captain. We've received a transmission from the Velkorian High Council. A delegation is arriving at the Concordia in 3 days. They're coming to retrieve you." Jathira's patterns went completely still, turning pale silver. "Retrieve me? For what purpose?" "Your bonding ceremony. Apparently it was scheduled months ago. Your family has selected an optimal genetic match for you. The ceremony will take place on Velkoria Prime next week." Marcus felt his heart drop into his stomach. "Bonding ceremony?" Captain Rodriguez's voice was sympathetic. "I'm sorry, you two. I know this is sudden, but Velkorian bonding contracts are legally binding across all allied systems. Jathira, you need to return to the ship immediately." "Understood," Jathira said quietly. "We will depart within the hour." The communication ended. Jathira stood motionless, staring at nothing. Her patterns had turned completely gray, a color Marcus had never seen before. "You never mentioned a bonding ceremony," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "It is custom," Jathira replied flatly. "When Velkorians reach certain age and achievement levels, families arrange optimal genetic matches. I have known about this arrangement for 2 years. I simply forgot to think about it." "You forgot about your own wedding?" "It is not a wedding. There is no emotion involved. It is a logical arrangement for producing optimal offspring." Her patterns flickered with dark purple. "It is my duty." Marcus wanted to scream. He wanted to tell her that duty was a terrible reason to spend a life with someone. But he had no right. This was her culture, her people, her choice. They packed in silence and boarded the survey ship. The journey back to the Concordia felt like it took forever and no time at all. Jathira sat at the controls, her patterns staying that lifeless gray. "Tell me about him," Marcus finally said. "Your intended mate." "His name is Velmore. He is a distinguished scientist. Our genetic compatibility score is 94%. We have never met." "Never?" "Meeting before bonding is unnecessary. Logic determines compatibility, not personal feelings." Marcus clenched his fists. "And you're okay with this? Spending your life with a stranger?" "It is not about being okay," Jathira said. "It is about duty to my people, my family, my species. Personal desires are irrelevant. Personal desires matter. Marcus stood up, unable to sit still anymore. What you want matters. What you feel matters. Jathira spun to face him, her patterns finally showing color, angry red and orange. And what do I feel, human? You have taught me about emotions, but now they only cause pain. Before you, I was content with my logical life. Now I am confused and conflicted, and it hurts. That's called being alive, Marcus shot back. Feeling things good and bad, that's what makes life worth living. For humans, perhaps. But I am Velkorian. I have responsibilities. They stood facing each other, both breathing hard. Then Jathira's patterns suddenly shifted to deep blue, and her voice became very quiet. If I refuse this bonding, I will be exiled. My family will disown me. I will lose my position in Velkorian society. I will be alone. Marcus's anger melted away. He stepped closer but didn't touch her. You wouldn't be alone. You'd have friends. The crew cares about you. I care about you. For how long? Jathira asked. Humans live shorter lives than Velkorians. Your posting on the Concordia ends in 1 year. Then what? I would have sacrificed everything for something temporary. Marcus had no answer for that. She was right. What could he offer her that was worth giving up her entire world? They docked with the Concordia in silence. As they exited the survey ship, Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka was waiting. She was Marcus's closest friend on the ship, a tough woman who didn't show emotion easily. But now her eyes were sad. Marcus, I'm sorry, Yuki said. We all heard the news. It's fine, Marcus lied. It's not fine, and you know it. Yuki grabbed his arm. Are you really going to let her go without fighting? It's not my choice to make, Marcus said tiredly. This is her culture. I have to respect that. Have you asked her what she wants? Yuki demanded. Not what her duty says, not what her culture says. What does Jathira want? Marcus watched Jathira walk away down the corridor, her patterns still that awful gray color. He didn't have an answer. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He stared at his ceiling, thinking about the skeletons in the temple, 2 different species who chose love over logic, but that was thousands of years ago. Maybe that kind of love was impossible now. His door chimed. Marcus opened it to find Jathira standing there. She looked exhausted, her patterns dim and flickering. I cannot stop thinking, she said without greeting. I have been researching human bonding rituals, reading human poetry, studying human neuroscience. My AI assistant says my research patterns suggest personal interest beyond academic curiosity. Why are you telling me this? Marcus asked gently. Jathira stepped into his quarters. Because I need to understand. When I am near you, my bioluminescence shows patterns I cannot control. Colors that mean things I was taught do not exist. I need to know. Is this what humans call love? Marcus's breath caught. I can't answer that for you. Only you know what you feel. Then help me understand what I feel, she pleaded. Her patterns swirled with confusion, fear, hope, and something that looked like longing. I am a scientist. I solve problems. But I cannot solve this. Marcus took her hand carefully. Her skin was cool and smooth, and the moment he touched her, her patterns blazed with bright gold. That color, Marcus said softly. What does it mean? Jathira looked down at their joined hands, at the light pouring from her skin. In old Velkorian texts, texts that most consider myths, this color has a name. It means resonance, the perfect harmony between 2 souls. And you're showing it now, Marcus whispered. I show it every time you are near, Jathira admitted. I have been broadcasting my feelings all along, but you could not read them. They stood in silence, hands joined, both afraid to move, both afraid to hope. Returning to the Concordia, Marcus and Jathira submit their findings about the lost civilization. The discovery causes a stir. If two species could unite so completely millennia ago, what does that mean for current interstellar relations? But complications arise. A Velcorian delegation arrives to retrieve Jathira for her arranged bonding ceremony with a genetically optimal partner she's never met. Jathira accepts this with resignation. It's her duty, her culture, her expectation. Marcus is devastated but respects her choice. However, he notices Jathira's bioluminescence has become muted, the colors dull. She moves through her duties mechanically. Other crew members notice the change too. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, Marcus's friend, confronts him. "Are you going to let her go without fighting for her? That's not the human way." Marcus argues he can't impose human values on another culture. But Yuki counters, "What about her values? Have you asked what she wants?" Meanwhile, Jathira researches human bonding rituals obsessively in her quarters. She watches videos of weddings, reads poetry, studies the neuroscience of human love. Her AI assistant notes, "Your research pattern suggests personal interest beyond academic curiosity." Jathira makes a discovery. Her bioluminescence patterns around Marcus match the Velcorian signals for home, safety, and joy, emotions she didn't realize she was broadcasting. She's been signaling her feelings all along, but Marcus couldn't read them. Key moments. A formal dinner where Marcus must watch Jathira meet her intended mate, Jathira excusing herself early, her patterns flickering erratically. Marcus finding her in the observation deck, staring at the stars, Jathira asking, "If I chose differently, would you still stare at me?" Marcus couldn't let go of Jathira's hand. Her skin glowed with that golden light, brighter than he had ever seen. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said, his heart pounding. "I've been afraid to say it because it seemed impossible. But after finding those skeletons, after seeing proof that love can exist between species, I can't stay silent anymore." Jathira's patterns swirled nervously. "What do you need to say?" "I love you," Marcus said simply. "Not because you're fascinating to study, not because you're brilliant though you are. I love you because of who you are, the way you tilt your head when you're thinking, the way you started dancing to music without realizing it, the way you ask 1,000 questions about everything. I love you, Jathira." Her patterns exploded into a rainbow of colors, cycling so fast Marcus could barely track them. "I do not know what to say. This feeling inside me, this confusion and warmth and fear all mixed together. Is this love?" "I think so," Marcus said softly. "But it changes nothing," Jathira said, and her colors dimmed. "I still must return to Velcoria Prime. I still must honor my bonding contract. If I refuse, I lose everything, my family, my home, my career, my entire life." "I know." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "And I won't ask you to give that up for me. I love you too much to let you sacrifice everything." "Then what do we do?" Jathira asked, and for the first time, Marcus heard her voice break. Before he could answer, his door chimed again. Yuki entered without waiting, followed by 3 other crew members. Captain Rodriguez appeared on the room's communication screen. "We need to talk," Yuki announced. "All of us." "This is a private conversation," Jathira said, trying to compose herself. "No," Captain Rodriguez said firmly from the screen. "This affects all of us. Jathira, you've been part of this crew for 2 years. You've saved lives, made discoveries, and become family. We don't abandon family." Dr. Patel, the ship's medical officer, stepped forward. "I've been researching Velcorian law. There's a provision in the Interstellar Treaty, asylum for individuals facing cultural persecution for their choice of partner." "Asylum?" Jathira's patterns showed shock. "You are suggesting I request asylum?" "Only if that's what you want," Yuki said. "But if you do, the Concordia will stand behind you. All of us." Marcus stared at his crewmates in amazement. You'd all do this? Risk diplomatic problems with the Velcorians? For Jathira? Absolutely, said Chen Wei, the engineer. She helped me repair the quantum drive when everyone said it was impossible. She's one of us. Jathira looked around at the gathered humans, her patterns flickering with emotion. I do not understand. You would risk your careers, your diplomatic relations for me? That's what humans do, Captain Rodriguez said. We protect our own. And you're one of our own, Jathira. Whether you choose Marcus or not, whether you stay or go, you're family. Tears rolled down Jathira's face, the first time Marcus had seen a Velcorian cry. This is the human pack-bonding instinct I have read about. You extend it even to aliens. Especially to aliens, Yuki said with a grin. We collect family everywhere we go. It's kind of our thing. The next day, the Velcorian delegation arrived. 3 tall Velcorians in formal robes materialized in the transport bay. At their center stood a male Velcorian with deep blue patterns, Velmor, Jathira's intended mate. The meeting took place in the conference room. Velmor sat across from Jathira, his patterns showing polite neutrality. Marcus stood with Captain Rodriguez and the legal team. Jathira, Velmor began formally. Our bonding ceremony is scheduled in 5 days. All preparations are complete. Your family awaits your return. I need to speak with you honestly, Jathira said. Her patterns were steady, showing courage. I cannot go through with this bonding. The Velcorian delegation's patterns flashed angry red, but Velmor's remained neutral. May I ask why? Because I have experienced something I was taught did not exist. I have fallen in love with someone else. Velmor looked at Marcus, then back at Jathira, with the human. Yes. The room went silent. Marcus held his breath. Finally, Velmor spoke again. I must confess something, he said quietly. I too have been uncertain about our arrangement, not because of another person, but because I do not believe bonding should be forced. My parents pressured me into this contract. I agreed out of duty, not desire. The delegation behind him showed shocked orange patterns. Velmor ignored them. Our ancestors had a saying, Velmor continued. True bonding cannot be commanded, only discovered. Perhaps we Velcorians have forgotten this wisdom in our pursuit of genetic perfection. You support her choice? Marcus asked, surprised. I support choice itself, Velmor said. Jathira deserves to choose her own path, and honestly I do as well. I release you from our contract, Jathira, with respect and without anger. One of the delegates stood abruptly. This is unacceptable. The contract is binding. The High Council will... The High Council is not here, Velmor interrupted. I am, and I will tell them that I found Jathira incompatible. They cannot force a bonding if both parties refuse. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward. And the Concordia is prepared to offer Jathira asylum under interstellar law if necessary. We have documentation prepared. The delegates argued among themselves in their native language, but Velmor stood and approached Jathira. He placed his hand over his heart in a Velcorian gesture of respect. Be happy, he told her. Show our people that there is more than one way to live. Perhaps others will find the courage to choose for themselves as well. Thank you, Jathira said, her patterns glowing grateful gold. After the delegation departed, Marcus found Jathira in the observation deck, staring at the stars. He approached slowly. Are you okay? He asked. I am terrified, Jathira admitted. I have given up everything I knew. My family will likely disown me. I have no home to return to. Marcus moved to stand beside her. You have a home here, with us, with me, if you want that. I want that very much, Jathira said. Her patterns shifted to that beautiful amber gold. But Marcus, you must understand, I am still learning about love. I do not know how to be a good partner. I will make mistakes. We'll both make mistakes, Marcus said with a smile. That's part of being in love. We learn together. Jathira turned to him, and her patterns pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Humans are so strange. You choose love even when it is difficult, even when logic says it is unwise. Because love is worth it, Marcus said. You're worth it. She took his hand, her skin glowing warm against his. I have a question I must ask. Why do you keep staring at me? Human. It was their question now, something private between them. Marcus smiled. Because I love you. Because you're the most amazing person I've ever met. Because when you light up, you make the whole universe brighter. That is acceptable, Jathira said, and her patterns showed what Marcus now recognized as happiness. You may continue staring. They stood together in the observation deck, two beings from different worlds, holding hands and watching the stars. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges ahead, questions from both their peoples, and difficult days to navigate, but they would face it together. And that made all the difference. Marcus tells Jathira the truth. He's fallen in love with her, not despite their differences, but because of the person she is. Brilliant, curious, brave, and kind. He knows it's impossible, but he needed her to know. Jathira reveals her own research. She's been experiencing what her people call resonance, a phenomenon so rare it's considered myth. When two beings achieve perfect intellectual, emotional, and spiritual harmony. The fact that it's happening with a human should be impossible, yet her own biology doesn't lie. But there are consequences. If Jathira breaks her bonding arrangement, she'll be exiled from Velkorian society. She'll lose her family, her status, her home. Marcus refuses to let her make that sacrifice for him. This is when humanity's stubborn determination kicks in. The Concordia crew rallies around them. Captain Rodriguez invokes an obscure provision in the Interstellar Treaty, asylum for individuals facing cultural persecution for their choice of partner. Lieutenant Tanaka organizes a legal defense team. Even the ship's AI begins compiling precedents from across known space. The Velkorian delegation is furious, but they can't forcibly remove Jathira if she requests asylum. Her intended mate arrives to speak with her and surprises everyone. He admits he too was pressured into the arrangement and supports her choice. True bonding cannot be forced, he says, his patterns showing respect. Perhaps we Velkorians have forgotten this. But the final choice must be Jathira's alone. Marcus tells her, I love you, but I love you enough to let you go if that's what you need. Whatever you choose, I'll respect it. Key moments. The crew's unified response showing humanity's pack bonding instinct extending to adopted members. Jathira's moment of decision in the ship's garden dome. Surrounded by earth plants Marcus cultivated. Her realization that love is choosing someone every day, not duty assigned at birth. Jathira taking Marcus's hand, her patterns blazing with colors that mean forever. 6 months had passed since Jathira chose to stay on the Concordia. Life had changed in ways both wonderful and difficult. The Velkorian High Council had officially declared Jathira separated from her family. Her mother sent one message that simply said, You have brought shame upon us. Her father sent nothing at all. Some nights Marcus would find her in the observation deck, her patterns dim with sadness, staring toward the direction of her homeworld. But there were also beautiful moments. The crew had celebrated when Marcus and Jathira officially became partners. Yuki organized a ceremony that mixed human and Velkorian traditions. Dr. Patel gave a speech about love conquering all boundaries. Even Captain Rodriguez smiled and called them proof that the universe is full of surprises. Marcus taught Jathira more about human culture every day. She learned to appreciate jokes, though she didn't always understand them. She discovered she loved earth music, especially classical pieces. She even tried human food, though she found most of it unnecessarily complicated. In return, Jathira taught Marcus to read her bioluminescence patterns. He learned that quick silver flashes meant she was excited. Deep purple meant she was thinking hard about a problem. Soft pink meant she felt safe and content. And that golden amber color, that was only for him, only when they were together. One morning, Captain Rodriguez called them both to her office. "We've received an interesting message," she said, pulling up a holographic display. "The archaeological team wants to send you both back to planet AR-7743. Your initial report about the ruins has caused quite a stir in academic circles. They want a full excavation." "We would lead the expedition?" Jathira asked, her patterns brightening. "Not just lead it. They want you to establish a permanent research station there. It would be a 6-month assignment, maybe longer. You'd have a team of 20 researchers from various species. Think of it as humanity's first attempt at a truly integrated cross-species scientific community." Marcus looked at Jathira. Her patterns were cycling through excited colors. "What do you think?" he asked her. "I think it would be wonderful," she said. "To return to the place where everything changed for us, to continue the work those ancient people started." "Then we accept," Marcus told the captain. 3 weeks later, they stood once again before the ancient temple. But this time, they weren't alone. The research camp had grown into a small village. Scientists from Earth, Velcoria, Centauri, and a dozen other worlds worked together, studying the ruins and the civilization that had built them. Marcus and Jathira had made an incredible discovery. The temple contained a library, thousands of data crystals that somehow still worked after 5,000 years. The crystals told the complete story of the civilization. The two species had been enemies at first, fighting over the planet's resources, but then a plague struck both peoples. A human-like scientist named Thane and a Velcorian-like healer named Sarah worked together to find a cure. In the process, they fell in love. Their love inspired others. Slowly, the two species stopped fighting and started cooperating. They built cities together, shared knowledge, created art that combined both cultures. Within 3 generations, they saw themselves not as two separate peoples, but as one unified civilization. They called themselves the Bridge Builders, Jathira read from a translated crystal, because they believed love was a bridge that could connect any two shores, no matter how distant. Marcus squeezed her hand. "Sounds familiar." The research team made their findings public. News spread across the galaxy, proof that different species could not only coexist, but thrive together. It challenged centuries of assumptions about keeping species separate. Then something unexpected happened. A message arrived for Jathira. It was from a young Velcorian woman named Shira. "My name is Shira," the message began. "I saw the news about you and the human Marcus, about how you chose love over duty. I want you to know that you inspired me. I have been hiding my feelings for a Centauri engineer for 2 years, afraid of what my family would say. But after seeing your courage, I told him the truth. We are together now. My family is angry, but I am happy. Thank you for showing me that happiness matters." More messages came. A Centauri who had fallen in love with a human who wanted to bond with a Velkian. Species who had been keeping their relationships secret, suddenly finding the courage to be open. Jathira and Marcus had become symbols of something larger than themselves. "We didn't mean to start a movement," Marcus said one evening as they read through the messages. "Perhaps the best movements are the ones that begin with simple truth," Jathira replied. Her patterns glowed warm gold. "We simply loved each other. Others saw that it was possible and found their own courage." 6 months into the expedition, another message arrived. This one made Jathira's patterns flash with shock. It was from her younger sister, Kira. "Jathira," the message said, "Father and Mother refuse to speak your name, but I miss you. I have been studying your research on the bridge builders. Their story moves me. Perhaps you were not wrong to choose as you did. Perhaps our people have become too rigid, too focused on logic that we forgot about living. I do not know if our parents will ever forgive you, but I want you to know that your little sister is proud of you. You were brave. I hope someday I can be brave too. Jathira cried when she heard the message. Marcus held her as her patterns cycled through every emotion: sadness, joy, hope, love. It's a beginning, he told her gently. Maybe not a happy ending yet, but a beginning. Yes, Jathira agreed. A beginning is enough. The research station grew into something more permanent. The Interstellar Council approved funding for what they called Haven Station, a place where cross-species couples could live and work without judgment. Scientists came, but so did artists, teachers, families. The station became a small community of hope. 1 year after they first returned to the planet, Marcus and Jathira stood in the temple where they had found the ancient couple's tomb. They were preparing to give a presentation to the Interstellar Council about their findings. "Are you nervous?" Marcus asked. "Terrified," Jathira admitted. Her patterns flickered with anxiety. "We are asking them to reconsider centuries of tradition, to accept that love between species is not just possible but valuable." "Then we'll face them together," Marcus said, "just like we face everything." Jathira smiled. She had learned that human expression and now used it often. "Why do you keep staring at me, human?" It was their private joke now, their special question. Marcus grinned. "Because you're brilliant and beautiful. Because you make me want to be better. Because every day with you is an adventure. Because I love you more than all the stars in the galaxy." "That is acceptable," Jathira said, her patterns dancing with happiness. "You may continue." They walked together to the communication chamber where representatives from 100 worlds waited. Behind them, the temple stood as a monument to what was possible. Ahead of them, the future waited, uncertain, challenging, but full of promise. Marcus and Jathira had learned that love wasn't always easy. It required courage, sacrifice, and constant work. But it was worth every struggle. They had found something rare in the universe, two souls that recognized each other across the vast distance of space and species. As they began their presentation, speaking about the bridge builders and the lessons their ancient civilization could teach the modern galaxy, Marcus glanced at Jathira. Her patterns glowed with confidence and purpose. She caught his eye and her colors shifted to that special amber gold, just for a moment, just for him. The presentation went well. The council asked hundreds of questions. Some representatives were skeptical, others were intrigued, but by the end, they agreed to fund more research into cross-species cooperation and understanding. It wasn't a complete victory. Changing minds took time, but it was a start. That night, Marcus and Jathira stood under the alien stars of AR 7743. The sky was different from Earth's, different from Velcoria's, but beautiful in its own way. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Giving up your old life?" Jathira considered the question seriously, as she considered everything. Her patterns shifted through thoughtful colors before settling on warm gold. "I gave up one life," she said finally, "but I gained another, a life with purpose, with love, with choice. No, Marcus, I do not regret it, not for a single moment." She took his hand, and they stood together under those alien stars, two beings who had dared to love across the impossible distance between worlds. In the temple behind them, the ancient couple rested peacefully, their story finally told, their legacy alive in two people who proved that love, true love, needed no translation, crossed every border, and built bridges between any two hearts willing to meet halfway. The stars shone above them, countless and brilliant, each one a possibility, each one a promise. And Marcus and Jathira, hand in hand, were ready for whatever came next. Together. The end.